This is Mental Strain, Michele, and you're listening to episode number 25, How to Stop Stressing. Welcome to the I Cut the Mustard show, where you'll learn how to stop stressing, stop stress eating, and start fitting into those skinny jeans. Because whether it's belly fat or bloating, stress stinks. But don't worry, you've got what it takes. You're sharp enough. You cut the mustard. All right, are you guys ready for this? Big secrets, life secrets are coming out in this episode, How to Stop Stressing. Sometimes whenever I title these, I feel like I'm promising too much to you. This is everything you'll ever need to know about stress and how to stop it. Okay, maybe not everything, but I think it'll give you a cool picture of what stress really is and how you can stop stressing in a really practical way that I use regularly that has really helped change my life. And before we start, I just want to give a big confession here. I think I've mentioned in the past that I thought I never really considered myself a stressed out person. I just thought that I always had it together, that there's nothing wrong with me, and I'm always fine. And then I realized again that I was just repressing that all into my gut, and that was making me sick. It was making me feel terrible. And I was also gaining weight, of course, feeling bloated all the time. And so obviously I'm a stressed out person. But recently, I just keep thinking about all these past experiences that I've had where I just feel like a total crazy person. Like after my kids were born, that postpartum stuff, I had a really bad postpartum anxiety. I'm saying really bad, but it was just felt really bad to me. There's lots of people that maybe feel it worse than I did, but I guess part of me just keeps thinking that I don't have a problem, but part of me wonders if I really do have a problem because I keep recognizing these little times when I'm like, wow, I really have to work on it pretty hard every day with some of the tools that I'm going to explain to you today. But because I have a positive attitude about it and I'm not willing to label myself that I have anxiety, I just keep working on it and I keep deciding that my life is going to be wonderful and I'm going to make the most out of it. And I feel like if I keep it that way, then it doesn't really matter if I have anxiety all the time, that I can still move forward and I can do great things. But part of the reason I wanted to say that was to just say that you're not alone and there's a lot of people out there who really struggle with anxiety a lot. But that doesn't mean that we can't make an impact in the world and do amazing things with our lives. And whenever you're feeling stressed out, if you need to take a moment to step back and deal with it and stop stressing before you move on to other important things going on in your life, then you totally have my permission. And that's actually what I recommend. So today we're going to go over how that process works. But before we do, quick recap of what stress is with my favorite definition, the definition that I love because it's wrong, from just the Google dictionary, says that stress is a state of mental or emotional strain or tension resulting from adverse or very demanding circumstances. So we're breaking it down a little bit more today. So mental or emotional strain or tension. Where is that strain coming from? This definition says it's coming from those demanding circumstances around us, right? Which we talked about in previous episodes. It's not the circumstances around us that are so demanding. It's not having too much on your plate. It's not that your grandma just died or that the coronavirus is raging or that everyone around us seems there's just a lot of racial tension happening right now. That's tension. That feels really real, right? It feels like that circumstance is really helping us feel this emotional strain, right? But in fact, it's not those things specifically, but it's how we're interpreting them, what we're thinking about those events that's creating emotional or mental tension inside of us. So the answer isn't to run away from all that stuff, because all that stuff isn't causing your strain. What's causing your strain is all the thoughts that you're having about it and all the emotions that you're having. But the cool thing that I'm going to share with you today is that it's not even you having those thoughts and emotions. It's the fact that you keep them all inside. Your body was made and your mind was made to process thoughts and to process emotions. We have thousands and thousands of thoughts every day, and we have lots of emotions going on. And emotions are just vibrations in our body, and our body was made to feel emotions. We were made for this. There's a reason that we have emotions, and our bodies can handle it. But the real cause of stress is not that we're having thoughts, it's not that we're having emotions, it's that we are not processing them. We're not letting them flow through us. We're kind of ignoring them. So I think a lot of the problems that I work with people on and work with myself on is all of the things that we do to avoid thinking about those thoughts and avoid processing the emotions. So let me give you an example. I have been feeling overwhelmed the last couple of days. I feel like, man, I put too much on my plate. I've had a lot of shame. I deal a lot with feeling like I'm not enough. I'm not good enough no matter what I do. And I'm running around everywhere trying to prove myself to myself and to other people. And then I tend to put things on my plate, extra things, like always working, right? Always trying to get this goal that's just elusive, right? So, because of that, I was feeling very overwhelmed and also ashamed of some things that I had said and I had done. So in the past, I would have just gone to food and eaten instead because I felt overwhelmed and that's uncomfortable. So I would go eat some food and press that down, push it down, right? Or the reason that I'm busy all the time too is because I don't want to feel those things, right? I'm running away from the uncomfortable thoughts and emotions that I'm having. And whenever I go out and I distract myself with something productive, then I don't have to feel those things. So I think that's what a lot of stress management tools are teaching us to do as well. Instead of feeling our thoughts or feeling our emotions and thinking our thoughts and processing through and working through those things, a lot of the interventions that we're taught about stress is sort of avoidance, I think, in my opinion, right? Go exercise. And I'm not dogging any of these, so let me explain. But a lot of the things are like, go exercise, go rest. You just need rest, or take things off your plate, right? Or go watch a movie. Maybe you're lonely. Go watch a movie or connect on social media because you're lonely, right? And it's looking outside ourselves for the answer to this stress problem. And I love all of those things, right? I love exercising with the endorphins. And but I think the reason that it works is because it gives us time to stop and think and feel our emotions, right? So sometimes we think the way that we stress less, we stop stressing, is to just go relax by watching TV or reading a book or doing something else. But I guess my caution here just is to use those things wisely. Don't go to exercise or go to read a book or go to watch a movie or eat or whatever it is that you're doing. If you go into it thinking that this is going to relieve your stress, this is going to make it all better, then I think you're going into it for the wrong reason. Because the real reason you're feeling stressed is because there's that emotional and mental strain. It's just building up inside of you, all of those emotions, all of those thoughts that you don't want to deal with. So even if you're going to those healthy things, if you're going to them to try to avoid what you're thinking and feeling, then you're not going to stress less. I have a perfect example of this, which I think I've shared before, but breathing exercises don't always work for me because I'm just so worried about them working. I just want them to give me instant relief, and I'm expecting them to make me feel better. And so I get more stressed out when after a few minutes of me trying to breathe, I'm actually get more anxious. So for me, I'm going into it with the wrong mindset, and it's just something that I can practice. But I think that's just a perfect example of how you can go into doing these healthy things for you, exercising, eating right, watching a movie or hang out with friends. All of those things are good things. But if you go into it to be distracted by your thoughts, it's not going to help you feel better, right? How are you going to feel better? Let's talk about that. How do you stop stressing? Well, we've got to address that mental and emotional strain. What are those emotions? What are those thoughts that you're having that are causing you pain. And instead of running from them, I suggest sitting there and listening to yourself. And again, I want to mention how a lot of things that I work with people on is that we're trying to run away. We're trying to push it down. We don't want to listen to ourselves. And so we push it back, we push it back, we push it back. And just like my example with my gut and my digestion, you can only push it for so long before your body screams and it wants you to listen, right? So if you're not going to listen to its subtle feelings and signals that it's trying to give you, then it'll start to speak louder and louder and louder, like allergies and health issues, digestion, weight gain, right? What can you see? What are you going to pay attention to? Your body will start to show up in those ways that are very loud and very obvious so that you'll begin to listen. So the cool thing is that as we begin to listen, those loud ways that it's trying to get our attention will start to go away because your body doesn't need them anymore. So if your body has gained a lot of weight, in order for you to start listening, then you'll start to lose weight and just release that weight because you don't need it anymore. And if your body has been really tight, if you have a digestion that's really tight and it's painful and you start listening to yourself, then that digestion will begin to relax and release and you'll have less problems with it. And I've been working with someone who has itching, who's just itching all the time. And, once you figure out what's literally itching to get out, then you'll stop itching, right? All of these things are overeating. Overeating is just a way of trying to get your attention as well. Like, hey, there's something wrong. There's something going on. Please listen to me. So I feel like all of these signals, all of these are signals that your body's giving you to try to get your attention and get you to listen to what's really going on in your brain. And I promise it's not as scary as you think. And emotion isn't as scary as you think. It's not as hard to process as we make it out to be. It's just a vibration. It's just tightness in your chest or clenching in your throat. I mean, sometimes it doesn't feel good, but it's not worse than getting overweight or having that crazy phantom pain or the digestion issues. So, okay, here's the practical stuff. Here's how to stop stressing. How do we get rid of, or not get rid of, but how do we process our thoughts and emotions in a way that they don't get stuck, in a way that they can just slide through, that we can listen to them and process them so that they don't cause us any of this physical pain or stress on our bodies. Okay, so here's my tip number one. I kind of already went over, and that is just listening. So stopping to observe yourself and just ask yourself, what's the matter, right? When I do this a lot, whenever I'm hanging out with my kids and I find that I'm very short and angry, then I think, man, something's going wrong. Something has gone wrong. Something feels very frustrating inside of me. And I know that it's not my kids because they're pretty constant. They're always loud and fun and doing great. Sometimes they break stuff, that's all pretty constant. But some days I can handle it and some days I can't. So the days that I can't handle it, then that's just a little signal. Hey, I'm getting really frustrated. So I can take a moment and step aside and ask myself, what's the matter? And just really listen to yourself. And in order to listen, I would recommend getting a journal out and just writing it all down if that works for you. Or maybe going on a run and listening to yourself, or getting away from the kids for a while if you've got kids. But the big deal is to just listen to yourself and honestly talk to yourself. I'm such a big advocate of just asking yourself questions. How's it going? What's the matter? What's important about that? What's going on? Why do you think that might be the case? Or how are you feeling, right? You just be a good listener. Be the best friend that you've got, right? A lot of us go out to our friends and they want us to listen, which is really great and it helps us a lot. But we can do that same thing for ourselves, to just listen to ourselves and be 100% honest with ourselves. And you know that you'll understand you in a way that no one else can. So my tip number one is to just sit back and listen to yourself. And a lot of the tension going on in your body will release that way, right? Just listening to yourself and understanding yourself. When you feel understood, you'll feel less stressed. Another thing that you can do is to use the model to kind of change those thoughts, because I think one of the biggest stressors that I deal with and my clients deal with is the elusive, like, I don't know, that space of not knowing, of confusion, just is very stressful for people, and it starts to build up. Fear and anxiety starts to build up inside of you because you feel like you don't know what's going on, right? So rather than thinking that thought, you can think, I'm figuring it out, or there's a solution. There is a solution. Everything is figure outable, right? So I love to step into that whenever I'm having that problem of I don't know. It's I can find out. I can figure this out, and just having faith in yourself. So using the model to just sit down and say, what's happening right now? What am I feeling stressed about? And write the situation down in terms of facts. What thoughts am I having about it? Let's do an example. Maybe it's, since we're talking about stressing less to lose weight, maybe it's that you can't lose weight, right? Maybe you have an extra 25 pounds that you feel like you just have had it forever and you can't get rid of it. So maybe your circumstance is the number on the scale. So you write that in the C line, and then you think about what thoughts are you having about that. And let's use my example of I don't know. I don't know how to lose weight. I don't know what my problem is, right? Maybe it's one of those. So then you can just look through that model and see, how do those thoughts show up for you? Maybe, it's that weight on the scale. You have what you feel like is 25 pounds over. I don't know how to lose weight. So then you're feeling confused or afraid. And maybe that's showing up in your actions, that you give up whenever you start some diet program, but you feel like you don't know, that's not going to work. So you give up. Or maybe you try a lot of different diet programs because you just do a lot at one time because you're not sure which one is going to work. So you take on too much. So kind of seeing how that plays out and what results that gives you in your life. So you can step back and use the model, which we've used and talked about in previous episodes. And then to change your model to get a new model that actually works for you, you can start with the feeling and say, what do I want to feel instead? How do I want to feel about my weight instead? Maybe I want to feel peaceful, or maybe I want to feel hopeful. Maybe I want to feel in control. And you pick one of those and you stick it in the model as well. Maybe I want to feel peaceful. So what kind of thoughts do I need to have to feel peaceful? And for the thoughts, you want to pick something that actually resonates with you, where you feel like it's not some mantra that you're trying to pound into yourself that you don't want to do, right? That you don't want to receive. It's something that's believable to you. Like if you want to feel peaceful, maybe it's something like, I think it's possible to find an answer, or it's possible that I could be happy no matter what weight I am. It's possible that I could lose weight, that sort of thing, those hopeful sort of thoughts, whichever one resonates with you, right? So that's how you're changing your thoughts. You're just thinking of different ones that might work for you, that are believable for you, that move you towards what it is that you really want. And this is an amazing, I keep talking about this process. Maybe you're getting sick of it. I'm trying to use a lot of repetition though, because it takes a lot of practice. But it's really amazing whenever you start using it in your life. And when I use it with my clients, I remember one in particular, we went through kind of some stuff from the past that she'd been carrying around. And we went through and we looked at it really mathematically like this. And like, what are some thoughts that you were having? What are some feelings you were having? And kind of questioning those and changing them around and coming up with new ones. And just the way of looking at things like this, stepping back, you can start to look at yourself with a little more compassion and understand that that you're many things. Understand that you had good intentions or whatever it is, and finding that new thought that feels good to you, that gives you those feelings of hope and peace and love, that really releases that tension, that burden that you've been carrying around, right? And it's really transformational. That's how transformational coaching can be, is starting to change the way that you look at things. Because honestly, that's all that stress is, right? If stress is caused by a story that you're telling yourself about a situation, then if you can change that story to one that you actually like, but that's believable to you, that changes your life, right? That changes everything for you. And I want to make a note about the crazy thing that I do at the beginning of each of the episodes. I talk to you guys and I get on and I say, I'm Mustard Michele, or I'm Making It Happen Michele, I'm Motivational Michele, or whatever. I just think those are a little bit silly, but I just like to throw those out there because for me, understanding that I'm a little bit of everything really helps me have compassion for myself. So I'm motivational, I'm happy, I'm optimistic, I'm out there, I'm driven, but I'm also really self-degrading and selfish and pessimistic. And these are the things that I struggle with off microphone, right? So whenever I can see, I like to be able to step into any of those roles and say, yeah, it's true. I did say the wrong thing. I did do the wrong thing in that moment that I feel like is the wrong thing. Maybe I yelled at my kids and I'm feeling bad about that. Yeah, I did do that. I was angry. I was a bad mom in that moment, but I'm also a really good mom. And I can see both sides. And because I am both things, I can be more compassionate and I can find hope and decide that I'm just going to step into motivational Michele a little bit more often and leave the downtrodden Michele behind a little bit more often, right? I'm going to pick her up and take her to motivational Michele so that we can keep moving forward in happier ways. So just that understanding that I'm everything. And for example, with the not enough struggle that I have, I can find so much evidence for not enough, for ways that I fall short of my own expectations for myself. But I can choose to find ways that I'm more than enough and that I have what it takes to cut the mustard. I have what it takes to do whatever it is that I want in my life. Okay. I feel like I'm a little bit rambly on today's episode, guys. But the point is, I want you to see that there's a lot of ways to stop stressing, but that they all come from inside your brain. That stress really is caused by thoughts in our brain, and it's caused by them just jamming up in there and just getting on that broken record and going over and over and over. And it's just those old thought patterns that are stuck. And whenever we can process those thoughts and start moving in a different direction, when we can let them go and say, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'm a bad mom sometimes, but I'm a really good mom sometimes. Or I'm incomplete, but I'm also really complete and wonderful in other ways, right? Then you're starting to shift that mental strain and you're letting it go, right? So we talked mostly about mental strain so far. So number one, just observing what thoughts are going on in your head, trying to change those using the model that we've used in the past, understanding that you are both things, you're everything at one time, that the opposite is often true, and just releasing that tension there. And then the emotional stuff works the same way, observing your emotions, trying to understand, listening to your emotions, sitting with them, trying to understand, how does it feel whenever I'm sad? How does shame feel inside my body? And just be getting really good at observing and taking time for yourself, asking yourself questions, asking yourself to describe it to yourself, right? Acknowledging what it is that you're feeling. So if I am feeling shame at the time, because I just keep giving the yell at my kids example, but that's what I've got going for today. I yelled at my kids. I feel like I'm a bad mom. So I'm feeling shame. What does that feel like in my body? It's just clenching right in the solar plexus in the middle, right? Or sometimes it's just tightening of my throat. And I can just observe that. I can think about it. I can try to describe it for myself. I can say, I'm feeling shame. This is what shame feels like. And you just sit there and you feel it. You keep describing it to yourself. It's going to change and flow a little bit. And as you sit there, it'll eventually go away, right? Where things come in waves for us. We're not always happy. We're not always sad. So this too shall pass. One of my high school teachers used to say that all the time. This too shall pass. So you can be confident sitting with it. And the more that you practice sitting with your emotions, the more that you're going to realize that you can do it. I can totally do shame. I can do regret, right? I can do scared. And it's not going to hurt me. My body can handle this. And that will let it just go flow through you so that you don't have to run away from it anymore. So just to recap, how to stop stressing. There's lots of ways that you've probably heard of in the past, like getting plenty of sleep, not putting too much on your plate, exercising, drinking plenty of water, journaling, all of those things are excellent. But to use all of those things that we just talked about in the right way. Go into it knowing that you want to feel and understand yourself. Understand what you're thinking and understand what you're feeling. If you go into it thinking, I'm going to relax, I'm going to avoid everything that's going on in my head and push it off and not feel my emotions, then they're just going to build up, right? Because you haven't taken care of them. So they're still stuck inside of there. So that just makes more stress and more emotional strain, right? More emotional and mental strain. But as you acknowledge them, you look at them, you listen to them, then they go away. So one more quick analogy before I go, because I'm talking about my kids today. Just think of a 3-year-old. Whenever my 3-year-old comes and he wants something from me, he's trying to communicate with me, right? He'll ask me a couple times. And then if I don't answer, if I don't acknowledge, if I go and I do something else, if I try to distract myself and relax on the couch and read the book and ignore him, he's just going to get louder and louder and louder. And then he's going to start destroying my house because he is trying to find other ways to get my attention, right? I didn't listen the first time. He tried talking, he tried yelling, he tried screaming. Now he's going to try destroying my house and see if that works. So that's the same thing that happens in our own lives inside of us. We're going to tap on the door. We're going to knock on the door and say, hey, I think I'm not feeling that great. But if we run away from it, even if it's healthy, positive things, our mind and our body is going to tap on the door again. It's going to tap a little louder. It's going to start yelling. It's going to start throwing things and destroying this beautiful house, which is our body, in order to get our attention. But whenever I stop and I look at my toddler and I acknowledge him and I talk to him kindly and I ask him what's up and what he needs and I get that for him, then he quiets down, right? And I'm not talking about just giving him whatever he wants. That's a different discussion. But in the same way, as you listen to yourself with compassion and love and give yourself what you need, then the stress will release as well. So there's the solutions to all of your life's problems. If you loved this episode, go ahead and just share it with a friend. Send it to whoever you think needs it, or any other episode that you've liked in the past. Thanks so much for listening. Have a fabulous day. What's one thing that's really been weighing you down? Are you ready to kick it to the side? Then join me for a Stress Less call today, where you'll learn the #1 mindset tool that I use to stop stressing and find relief right now. Go to icutthemustard.com/stressless to sign up for that call today.